Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of We Are the Bonsai Supply. I am Jerome, and in this week's episode I am once again styling some pre-bonsais that are going to be later on up for auction. So make sure you stick around until the very end of the video. So these are two tamarinds from our pre-bonsai section, and tamarins are tropical trees, and I'm going to be styling both of these tropical trees, and both of these are going to be up for raffle. So tamarind is one of those bonsai species that I feel like it's a little underrated. Like, it's not used as much as it should be because it is a fantastic species. Number one, the leaves already start out small and they do close up as well. Similar to the rain tree, it has a really cool rough bark and it grows little pink flowers that look just like this. And they also grow a little fruit that hangs down on a string. It's a little fruit that hangs down, and in India they use that fruit a lot in cooking, and other countries, I believe, as well as the Middle East. Like, they make drinks out of it. I'm sure you've seen the tamarind. I really love this species, and this is a species that is extremely hard to come by. It's not your everyday species, and when you do find them, they're usually straight poles. Straight poles? They're usually straight poles, like fence posts. So these two tamarinds that I have here in front of me, they both have some great movement to it. This one leans and this one has a straight wiggle up. So I thought it would be a good idea for me to style both of these and show you two different ways of how I approach these type of materials, right? Because they are different from each other, and how I can bring really the best out of each one of those. So let's get right to it. So I chose this tree to go first. So this is my first victim. Now, first of all, before I do anything, I always like to defoliate the tree, right? So that I can see the structure and I can see all the branches of the tree. So the way that you remove the leaves on a tamarind is very simple. You can just grab the tip and just pull the leaves back towards the tree, right? So I hold the tip and I just pull it back. And then I always like to leave the little stems for dieback. And so here we go. So super easy tree to defoliate. And this tree reminds me a lot of like a rain tree in terms of the leaves. The one thing that I like about the tamarinds a lot is that they don't have any thorns. So they're super easy to defoliate and to work with. Also, the branches are very flexible, which is great to, you know, put some crazy bends into the trunks and the branches. Alright, so when you defoliate, I try to leave most of the stems, as you can see. But if some of them come off, it's not a big deal. I just wouldn't remove all of the stems, just leave a few. Alright. So one thing that I liked about this tree from the beginning was that I have a nice trunk movement all the way up to the very top, to the apex of the tree. As you can see, it's not straight at all. There's a lot of movement and wiggle in the trunk. So that's something I liked a lot. And the top is leaning. So naturally, when I look at this tree now that it has no leaves on it, naturally, I'm kind of thinking that the tree should lean even more, like to make it even more dramatic, something like this. And then the next thing that comes to mind is, since the tree is leaning like that, and I think we should make this tree look like it's a very old tree. So I want to incorporate a lot of drama into the design. And when I have the tree like this, leaning this far over, we could turn this into a weeping style. And I think that would look really cool. Now let's see what it would look like having it weep to the other side. No, so for me, this is really cool. It's very dramatic. I think I made up my mind. So let me give you my front. I'm gonna put a little piece of wire in here, so for whoever wins it knows what my vision was for the front of the tree. I think the front should be right in here. This tree would be extremely cool if it was like in a little crescent pot or something like that, and it was leaning out and then completely weeping down. I think that would look really incredible. So now I'm going to go ahead and wire this entire tree, and obviously all the branches that are up here have to weep down. Now the first branch that I see that is an issue for me is this first branch right here. So this branch here that goes completely straight up, that branch I'm going to have to remove it because number one, it's too heavy to bend, and number two, it's on the inside curve. So you see how the swoop is in here? Yeah, so this branch, I'm going to have to take it out because this branch is on the inside movement, and yeah, this is not going to help at all. So I'm just going to take it out. Wonderful. All right, so one very important lesson to learn about when you design a weeping style tree. For one, I don't like when you have a big, heavy, massive trunk and then you weep it. In my opinion, weeping trees should be very delicate. So thinner trunks, a lot of movement in the trunk, and maybe leaning a little bit, and then weep, because that makes it look very very dramatic. Also, when you wire the branches and you start to weep them, don't just wire them and just pull the branches straight down, right? So what you want to do is give it a little shape like this and then have it weep. So you want to have a little movement in here straight from the trunk. So for instance, when I wire this branch, I'm going to put some movement into the branch first before I weep it down. And once you weep it down, there's no need to put extra movement into the branches that come straight down, because once the branch gets so heavy that it starts to fall over and weep down, gravity takes over, right? So the branches are going to fall straight down, and there's no need to put a lot of movement into there. Now you can, however, put a slight bend into the branches once you bring them down and make it look like the wind is blowing, for instance. Something like that is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and wire the tree now. Alright, so first tree is finished, and I think this one looks really cool. I actually do like it. I like the lean. It has a lot of drama. The only thing that we have to work on with this tree now is to have these branches come down a little more, and I would like to have a lot more branches come down, right? And the only way that we can achieve that is by defoliating. I would say about 2 to 3 times a year, and every time you defoliate, you get new branches. Now the tricky part with a weeping style is that the branches will grow up towards the sky. So as soon as new branches come out, you have to go ahead and take these branches and wire them down into position. However, I do like the staggering of the weeping so that the back is a little weeping further than the front. And that's for a good reason, because these back branches are much older, right? So therefore, these naturally would have to be much thicker and weeping down much further than the top branches, right? I would still like to have them come down just a little more, but I do like the staggering. I think it looks super cool. I think like a round taller pot, like a semi-cascade, or like I said at the beginning, like a crescent pot would look absolutely absolutely insane. I think it would look really cool. Super cool design. I'm very happy with the outcome of this one. So you know what that means, that we now have to move ahead or go ahead and work on a second tree. So I'm going to put this tree aside and I'm going to get cracking on the next tree. All right, so tree number one, super dramatic, really cool, weeping style. Now tree number two, I'm thinking of a nicely informal upright, but that's just what I'm thinking when I look at the tree at first glance. So I really don't know what I'm going to get into until I start defoliating. So defoliating is such an important process because it really helps you see into the canopy so much better. And also, when you do defoliate and then the trees start to grow back, the trees come back so much more vigorously. You get so many more branches, and the leaves are also smaller due to that, because the more branches you have, that equals the more leaves, right? So the more leaves you have, they don't have to be as big anymore as they are right now, right? So more branches, more leaves equals naturally smaller leaves. So when I start to look for the front of the tree, I look at the root spread, right? And I look at the movement right out of the ground, and then I follow the movement all the way to the top. And if the movement gets lost, I'm going to turn around the tree and see if the movement is better on a different side, right? I like the movement of the tree from this side because from this front, the trunk is leaning back a little bit, and then it comes up and it just has that really elegant, very subtle movement. And I really like that about this side of the tree. And I think the way that I'm going to wire this tree, I'm just going to start wiring this tree because I'm not quite sure. Once I set the first branch on the tree, which is down here, that's going to help me decide of what type of style of tree I'm going to turn this into. Well, obviously, it's going to be an informal upright, but at the same time, I'm not quite sure if I want to make the branches look heavy and point down a little more, or if I want to have the tree, if I want to make the tree look younger and have the branches grow up a little more. Maybe I'll find a happy medium. Alright, so this is the front of my tree, and you can see the silhouette here is already there. So all now you have to do is just to grow out more branches, right? I think this tree looks really elegant in its informal upright style. So I like the way that this tree turned out. This is just a very simple informal upright. This one has also really nice rough bark on the trunk, which I think is a really cool feature. This tree, the only thing that I would do is I would let this branch grow out more to thicken up more. And then as this branch starts to thicken up, the entire tree eventually could be potted at a slight angle so that it leans over to this side or perhaps to this side. But that's up to the individual, whoever gets this tree. This tree I would see in like an oval, shallow pot that has maybe like a crackled glaze, like a white or a black, something like that. I think would be really cool. But I think an oval or like a, yeah, I think that would look really nice. Alright, so I wanted to show you guys a little update on what these two trees look like now. So it's been a few weeks and they have both fully leafed out. They have recovered from my work, the defoliation, the wiring and the styling. This one looks like an informal, upright, very mature tamarind tree. And in this one it's very dramatic with its sweeping effect. So now let me explain you guys how you can actually acquire these trees. So both of these trees are on our website right now, part of an auction. So for the next 3 days, you can bid on either one of those trees or both, and with enough luck, you can win these trees, and then we'll ship them straight to your home. So I wish you guys good luck with the auction, and make sure that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.